Imagine you're caught in a massive rainstorm, and a good friend offers to share their umbrella. You're grateful. But suddenly, right in the middle of the downpour, they demand cash to keep you dry, or threaten to just walk away. For decades, the United States has provided a massive military security umbrella over Asia-Pacific allies like Japan, South Korea, and Australia. In return for this protection, these nations allow the U.S. to set up crucial military bases right in their backyards. But recently, under President Trump's second term, that steady protection has started to shake. The U.S. is treating these deep, historical partnerships less like bonds of mutual survival and more like short-term business contracts. When a decades-old promise of safety is suddenly treated like a deal that can be canceled at any moment, nobody feels secure. That uncertainty is making the entire region a lot more dangerous. To see how this looks on the ground, let's start with South Korea. The U.S. recently shocked Seoul by slapping a 25% tax, or tariff, on Korean goods entering the United States. This is a heavy blow because South Korea's entire economy relies on making things, like cars and computer chips, and selling them to the rest of the world, especially American buyers. The friction goes beyond economics. Imagine a landlord installs a heavy-duty security camera above your door because you live in a risky neighborhood. Then one day, they just rip it out of the wall to use at another building they own, leaving you completely exposed. That is essentially what the U.S. did with this machine. This is the THAAD system, a massive, highly advanced missile shield originally set up in South Korea to protect the country from North Korean attacks. South Korea paid a steep price to host the shield. China hated the system's powerful radar and retaliated by blocking billions of dollars in trade, crushing Korean businesses overnight. South Korea accepted that economic pain because they needed the protection. Yet, without warning, the U.S. unplugged the system and shipped it off to the Middle East to support the war in Iran. South Korea's president publicly opposed the move, but admitted he had no power to stop it. When a sovereign nation cannot stop a foreign power packing up its critical defense asset, the massive power imbalance in the relationship becomes uncomfortably clear. Across the sea in Japan, the tension is just as high. The U.S. administration grew frustrated when Tokyo refused to send its own military to support the U.S. conflict in Iran. But Japan's refusal isn't about being difficult. After World War II, Japan adopted what is known as a pacifist constitution, a strict set of domestic laws that legally bans the country from fighting wars overseas. This disagreement has led to concrete consequences. Japan ordered hundreds of these, Tomahawk cruise missiles, to build up its own defense. But the U.S. has reportedly delayed shipping them, prioritizing sending weapons to the Middle East instead. This puts Japan in a terrible bind. They are angering the very partner they rely on for safety, while simultaneously being starved of the actual hardware they need to defend themselves. When the U.S. expects an ally to break its own foundational laws just to support a foreign campaign, it shows Washington is prioritizing absolute loyalty over the domestic stability of its closest friends. So what do you do when the person holding the umbrella gets distracted? You don't walk out into the storm. You quietly start shopping for your own raincoat. This is a strategy called hedging. Look at this chart tracking public opinion in South Korea. It shows a massive spike, with over 76% of the country now supporting the idea of building their own independent nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, the government is pushing to take full control of its military operations during wartime. Japan is taking similar steps. They are on track to double their defense budget and bypassing the U.S. to sign direct security agreements with nations like Australia and the Philippines. There is also an economic reality. Cut off by American trade barriers and squeezed by high energy prices from the Middle East, these countries are now being forced to sit down and make deals with Beijing just to keep their economies afloat. This reveals a massive irony in the current U.S. strategy. By squeezing its closest friends and treating them like disposable clients, Washington is accidentally driving them right into the arms of its biggest global rival. The days where these nations blindly followed Washington's lead are fading. America's Asian allies aren't tearing up their treaties today, but they are absolutely building the tools they need to survive without the United States tomorrow. This leaves us with some huge questions for the future. Will Japan rewrite its laws to build a fighting military? Will South Korea actually construct a nuclear bomb? And just how deeply will China pull these